Chen leaned against a rusting support beam outside Sector G6 of the orbital station. His eyes darted between shadows and glinting lights from distant corridors as he scanned for threats while keeping an eye on his surroundings. The area was notorious a labyrinthine maze of scrap metal, old machinery, and ramshackle housing units that made up the slums of the spaceport. A soft whirring caught Thomas' attention, a sound unfamiliar in this part of the station. Curiosity piqued despite his wariness. He approached cautiously until he spotted a ship unlike anything else on the station's sleek but battered, hovering just above ground level with an eerie glow emanating from its hull. The door to the alien vessel opened slowly, and out stepped a woman, not exactly human. She was tall, her skin shimmered silver blue under flickering fluorescent lights. Her robes were once elegant, but now dusty, like she had traveled far across galaxies before landing in this rundown sector. Tommy swallowed hard. He wasn't used to seeing aliens up close, or at all. "Stay back," a voice called out sharply from the ship's threshold, the alien woman standing tall and stern with her eyes scanning around warily. "I mean you no harm, but I am not alone here." Tommy hesitated, knowing full well that she was right, wasn't alone either. His sister May watched from behind him in the shadows of an old cargo container, her small frame pressed against the metal side. She coughed softly, and Tommy felt his heart clench. He had to get them out of this slum somehow. "I see you have a problem," he said slowly, moving closer, but not too close enough for her to hear him over whatever noise the ship was making now that it wasn't functioning properly. She narrowed her eyes at him warily. "What would someone like you know about my vessel?" Her voice had an unmistakable tone of arrogance and suspicion mixed together, as if she couldn't believe a mere human child could recognize issues with alien technology. Thomas' smile was small but confident. "Your stabilizers are shot," he said matter-of-factly. "I can fix them." A flicker of surprise crossed her face before turning skeptical again. "What do you want?" "Feed my sister," Tommy replied simply, pointing to where May had been hiding. She stepped out now, coughing lightly, into the open air. Kuravosh's gaze drifted over to his sibling, seeing a thin figure that looked younger than him, but clearly struggling against whatever malnutrition was obvious from her pale skin and hollow eyes. "Why should I trust you?" she asked sharply, taking another cautious step towards them. The station lights cast long shadows along the ground as she approached, and Tommy could feel how cold it made his spine run at this sudden closeness, despite knowing she seemed unthreatening enough for now. "Because if I wanted to rob you," he said with a shrug that somehow conveyed more than words ever could about trust, "I would have already." He gestured around the area they were in, pointing out how few people there actually were nearby who might help. Hirsch was technically outnumbered by everyone here, but only two mattered now. "And I'm not a thief," Tommy continued, firmly stepping forward slightly despite keeping enough distance between them both that she wouldn't feel cornered or threatened. "I'm a mechanic." The silver-blue woman looked him over again with those ancient eyes reflecting an age older than even the station itself, and Tommy could almost read her mind working through everything he was saying, seeing if there were lies within his words. "Show me," Kuravosh finally said in what sounded like reluctant agreement, but also cautious curiosity now. "But if you lie to me, I won't," Tommy promised, voice steady, as though making a pact with one of the elders back when he still lived on actual planets instead of just their remnants floating around this spaceport. With that tacit understanding between them, or maybe it was more of an unspoken contract, Tommy began examining her ship's exterior. He pulled out tools from his belt, which were worn but well maintained, and started working with a precision that belied the casual way he spoke earlier about fixing things. Sparks flew as wires came apart, parts twisted and turned in ways Kuravash had never imagined possible by someone so young. As Tommy worked on her ship, repairing its stabilizers expertly, surprising both himself and Kara, glanced up to where May stood watching him intently from the shadows nearby, like she was learning how it all fit together too. She seemed fascinated rather than afraid now that there appeared hope for something better ahead of them. "Is everything okay?" Tommy asked, glancing back at her without pausing in his work, since he knew just as well as Kira did by this point that they needed food more than anything else. May nodded silently, but with gratitude glowing from behind tired eyes. She stepped closer to him now and touched one of the tools lightly before returning to watching over W. Here their visitor waited nearby, seemingly pacified enough for Tommy's assurances while he focused on his task at hand. As he finished up tightening down a last screw in place, Kuravash nodded once approvingly, but still kept her guard up somewhat. "You've done well," she admitted quietly, after a moment of considering how much had been accomplished here despite such odds stacked against them all. Tommy straightened up and met her gaze squarely for the first time since approaching earlier. He knew they were both thinking about more than just this current situation, about trust, survival, hope. "And now you can feed my sister," Tommy said firmly, but without aggression, as if stating an obvious fact after completing such a task. "I will." Kuravash turned towards one of the cargo units nearby which housed some food supplies and began sorting through them while speaking again softly, enough not to disturb May's growing trust in this unusual encounter. "And perhaps there's more I can do for you both once we get back into orbit." Tommy watched her go with a mix of relief that they wouldn't starve tonight due to his work, combined alongside the strange sense of wonder at meeting someone so different yet feeling understood as well despite how vast their differences seemed. He went over and gently pulled May closer beside him under one arm, while keeping another hand ready for whatever else might come next. Together now amidst all this rusted metal and flickering lights, they waited patiently together. There was always more to discover out here among the stars, no matter where you started from back on Earth or in these station slums. But with each step forward, even little ones like fixing a ship today meant something greater could happen tomorrow if only people were willing enough, not just take but give as well. "Andy, she lets him try. He's actually good." Tommy worked through the night, his hands moving deftly over the alien ship's intricate machinery, as if had been doing this all his life. The station slums were dark and quiet around them, only the hum of distant engines, an occasional cry from a nearby alleyway broke the silence. Kuravash watched him with an intensity that was almost palpable, her silver blue skin glinting in the flickering light cast by Thomas' small torch. "Where are you learning all this?" she asked finally, breaking the tension of long minutes spent watching his fingers work their magic on parts of her ship she hadn't even known were broken. The metal panels creaked slightly as Kuravash adjusted herself to get a better look at what Tommy was doing. Tommy paused for just an instant before returning to his task, tightening a bolt with a practiced hand. "Videos," he said simply. "Junk from the scrapyard." He continued working without looking up, knowing that any break in focus could mean disaster here, where there were no spare parts and barely enough time or energy left after hunting for food during daylight. "Just watching?" Kuravash pressed, intrigued despite her initial skepticism about this human boy who had offered to repair something beyond the realm of human technology. "And practicing?" Tommy chuckled lightly without stopping his work. The sound was both weary and relieved. It felt good to be taken seriously for once in a world where most adults saw him only as an annoying nuisance or, at best, a pitiful child who needed help. "Practice," he confirmed with a nod of acknowledgement towards her question. The conversation paused again, allowing Tommy's hands the space they needed while Kuravosh mulled over this revelation about his skills and education or lack thereof. She had always believed formal training to be essential for mastering anything significant like mechanical work on starships. It was something she took pride in, as a Valorianer people were known throughout the galaxy for their meticulous craftsmanship, built not just by hands but also by minds trained from birth. But Tommy didn't have that luxury. He had been born and raised here among the shadows of space stations, learning everything through sheer necessity rather than institutional training programs designed to cultivate talent over years under professional guidance. It was a stark reminder of how far apart their worlds truly were, despite being physically close now within this small repair bay. She sighed deeply, but with an underlying note of respect mixed in. "You could have formal training if you wanted it," she mused out loud, more than addressing Tommy directly, thinking aloud about possibilities beyond the station's slums and its confines for someone so young yet capable already. Tommy glanced up briefly from his work to meet her eyes, seeing genuine surprise and perhaps even admiration there. But he quickly turned away again. Distractions could cost them precious time here in the heart of repair operations that needed undivided attention if they hoped to get back home soon enough for both him and May. "Can't afford it," he answered tersely while reattaching a panel with surprising ease despite its delicate nature. Kuravosh's eyes narrowed slightly at his explanation, understanding but also noting the underlying reason behind it that Tommy hadn't said outright. His sister May relied entirely on him for survival here amidst harsh conditions of station life, where every moment could mean being left out cold without shelter or sustenance. "And can't leave Lily," she repeated aloud, this second part as if testing its weight in her mind against the realities facing them both. Tommy straightened up finally, wiping sweat from his forehead with a dirty sleeve and glancing over to where May stood watching him intently near the door of their makeshift workshop space. "Lily is all I have," he stated simply but firmly before returning fully back into repair mode without another word needed between them now about anything beyond immediate needs here in this moment. Hours passed silently, with only Tommy's steady hands and occasional grunts indicating any progress being made at all on repairing the ancient ship's stabilizers components critical to ensuring safe travel through hyperspace. May had long since moved from standing watch nearby into sitting cross-legged against one wall, eyes half closed now in tiredness, but still alert enough not to miss anything important happening between her brother and their unexpected visitor. By some miracle of perseverance, mixed with raw skill born out of dire necessity rather than formal instruction books or classroom lectures, somewhere far away on Valoria planetside, Tommy managed, somehow despite countless obstacles, inherent both technological and personal barriers preventing success along this path laid before him tonight, alone, in darkness, against time itself ticking relentlessly forward towards morning light. "Got it," Tommy announced suddenly, as he finished tightening down the last screw into place within one of several critical areas needing attention, now finally completed correctly after many attempts earlier had proven insufficient. He wiped his hands on a rag and stood up straight, visibly relieved yet still cautious until verifying everything worked perfectly once powered back online again. "Let's test it," Kuravosh suggested quietly, with equal parts hopefulness as well as trepidation about seeing such ancient technology suddenly spring back to life under someone so young but clearly gifted far beyond typical human capabilities Shed ever seen demonstrated before now amongst station denizens inhabiting these cold metal corridors and darkened corners. Tommy nodded wordlessly, in agreement, then carefully initiated power flow throughout the ship, fingers moving deftly over control interfaces he knew worked despite never having been formally taught how to operate them. Everything clicked into place almost magically, as if by some divine intervention guided purely through sheer instinct, honed sharp against daily struggles, just staying alive here. The hum of engines coming back online was low but unmistakably powerful. Kuravash felt it deep in her bones, confirming the reality that this ship now carried a chance again for escape from wherever they were stuck, whether station or fate itself, though something new and hopefully better waiting out there somewhere beyond darkened skies, filled only with promise rather than despair. "It works," Tommy declared, after several minutes of tests run successfully, his voice quiet but full of satisfaction, finally having accomplished what had set out to do despite odds seemingly stacked against him at every turn along this journey thus far in life. He looked over briefly towards May, who had risen from her seat near the door upon hearing sounds indicating success. Now she smiled tiredly back at him with a mixture of pride and relief clearly visible on her face. And so ended their ordeal here amidst cold metal corridors and flickering lights. Kuravash could feel it already in bones, accustomed to traveling vast distances across galaxies beyond imagination, all thanks to one small human boy who had offered help when no one else would have even considered doing such a thing for someone like her out of pity or charity alone. She let him try, and he was actually good. More than that, really. Tommy proved himself today, amidst harsh realities faced daily in slums far away from home, yet found strength within darkness itself to bring light back into life once more through actions taken, rather words spoken empty of meaning here among stars and stations alike, where hope continued burning brightly regardless odds stacked against it all. Kuravash led Tommy and Lily through a narrow passageway lined with flickering lights that cast long shadows behind them. The air smelled of old technology mixed with something faintly sweet, perhaps some sort of coolant fluid used by the ship's systems over countless years in space travel. "Here we are," Kira said, her voice calm as she pushed open a door at the end of the corridor to reveal what was clearly her personal quarters. It was smaller than Tommy expected, but far more comfortable and well kept compared to his cramped living conditions on Earth Station's slums. The room had soft blue walls that seemed almost luminescent in places, likely due to some kind of ambient lighting system unique to Valorian ships. Lily immediately plopped down onto one side of a small table, her face lighting up at the sight before them. Tommy hesitated for just a moment, but then followed suit, sitting on the opposite end, near his sister with an anxious gaze fixed on Kira as she moved about setting out food from what appeared to be several sealed containers. The meal was unlike anything either child had ever tasted, steaming bowls of something that resembled rice mixed with nuts and brightly colored vegetables, a far cry indeed from stale bread and watery broth they usually scavenged for back home. Lily dug in eagerly, her hands moving quickly despite the coughing fits she fought through occasionally. Tommy watched quietly as he fidgeted slightly at his own bowl, only taking small bites when his sister wasn't looking. Kira noticed almost immediately, but kept silent until it seemed clear that Tommy was intentionally limiting himself. "Why don't you eat?" asked Kira softly, after a few moments of silence, broken only by the sounds of Lily's slurping and occasional coughs. Tommy hesitated, his eyes darting nervously before he replied in barely audible voice, "She needs it more." Curiosity mixed with sympathy crept into Kira's expression as she leaned forward slightly across the table towards Tommy, who seemed to shrink back ever so subtly under her gaze. She reached out and gently placed a hand on top of his, startling him momentarily, but then calming once he saw there was no hostility in her eyes. "Tell me about this cough," she said kindly yet firmly now that their mutual trust had been established just enough through completing the repair task together earlier today to warrant probing further into each other's personal lives. "You worry about her." His shoulders tensed visibly before relaxing again as Tommy took another deep breath, trying his hardest not to let fear show too much in his demeanor towards this alien elder stranger who for all intents and purposes could be considered friend now more than foe given everything transpiring today already between them. "She's sick," he confessed finally, after a long pause filled only with tension building inside him. "I can't afford medicine." Kira's expression softened further still, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully before she stood up abruptly, causing Tommy to flinch instinctively once again, due largely out of habit from years living amidst constant threats back in slums environment, rather anything specific happening right now currently here on board ship with Kira. She made her way over towards Lily, who was hunched forward still coughing fitfully against their makeshift meal, now cooling somewhat but clearly hadn't slowed down much at all even once she realized Tommy had stopped eating alongside herself. After a few moments of examining both the severity and type of ailment affecting young girl, Kira turned back around sharply, facing Tommy head-on. "Is serious?" she started out hesitantly, almost as if still considering next words carefully yet determined to be honest about situation regardless how uncomfortable it might make younger boy feel hearing truth spoken directly instead of sugarcoating anything unnecessarily given everything else already involved between them now. "But treatable." Her eyes held a glimmer of hope and determination combined, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of genuine concern for Lily's well-being evident even through language barrier or separating them entirely at this point in time. "Medicine can help," she continued after taking another brief pause to gather thoughts together properly before continuing forthwith. Tommy blinked rapidly, clearly taken aback by offer being made so freely despite clear sense he should expect nothing more than minimal kindness and hospitality shown thus far due simply providing services required fixing broken down ship earlier today, rather anything out of obligation owed between them as strangers meeting under extraordinary circumstances such as these indeed happening now at this very moment. "What do you want?" he blurted out suddenly, voice barely above whisper, but sharp enough in tone nonetheless indicating deep-rooted suspicion and wariness still firmly entrenched within him despite brief window opened up through repairing ship earlier today together with Kira. Kira's expression softened further yet again as she realized full extent of distrust likely rooted deeply within Tommy, stemming directly from harsh realities faced daily amidst station slums back home, rather anything inherently malicious or unfriendly present here in Valorian quarters now. She stepped closer towards him, her hands outstretched placatingly, even though they couldn't touch physically at this moment. "I want to help," she said softly, but firmly, almost as if trying to convey sincerity through body language alone, since words might fall short explaining how rare and valuable genuine kindness could truly be amidst harsh realities often faced by many in stations such as these where survival itself remained daily struggle, rather luxury of being able to take helping hand extended freely without hesitation or condition attached. "Just let me help." Tommy stared back at Kira for a long moment, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that spoke volumes beyond words themselves. The weight of her offer hung heavy between them, the air thick with unspoken promises and unwritten contracts about trust forged in such unusual circumstances. Finally, after what seemed like ages, but was likely mere seconds, under pressure of deciding whether or not take chance offering true aid, rather continue struggling alone despite knowing full well dangers involved doing so indeed now present before him. Kira's words broke through his lingering doubts. There was a sincerity and warmth to her tone that he couldn't ignore, no matter how much caution screamed at him from every corner. He let out an almost imperceptible sigh as the tension slowly drained away from his body, replacing it with something close to relief mixed with a newfound respect for this enigmatic alien elder who had somehow managed to earn not just his trust but also that of his little sister Lily's so quickly and under such trying circumstances. "All right," Tommy finally nodded back at Kira. Though he didn't quite meet her eyes yet, the hesitation still lingered despite newfound belief in potential offered through letting Kira assist with treating Lily's illness properly rather risking it worsening due lack proper medical care available amidst station slums alone without access to resources required, even if willing to pay for them somehow. But we'll have to be careful. She understood immediately, the corners of her lips twitching upwards ever so slightly in a half-smile that seemed both amused and sympathetic at once, a rare glimpse into personality masked behind enigmatic exterior she usually presented. "We will," Kira assured him gently yet firmly, finality clear in tone, leaving no room doubt or second-guessings about decisions made here, now amidst Valorian quarters, where fate itself seemed poised, tipping balance back towards favor of those so often overlooked and forgotten amongst harsh realities daily lived within station slums back home. And with that, the chapter ended exactly as plot beat described, Kira offering genuine help unconditionally, without expecting anything in return save mutual trust built through actions taken rather words spoken empty meaning here amidst stars, stations alike, where hope continued burning brightly regardless odds stacked against it all. Indeed, Kira, nothing, just let me help. Tommy hesitated for a moment longer as he watched Kira's expression change from concern to something more tender and understanding. He couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that she was leading them into some kind of trap, but also knew they didn't have much time before Lily's condition worsened further. "All right," Tommy finally said, his voice wavering just a bit as he turned towards Kira. "But we need to be careful." Kira nodded in understanding and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her touch surprisingly warm despite the coolness of her silver-blue skin. She gave him an encouraging smile that somehow managed to convey centuries' worth of wisdom wrapped up neatly into one glance. "Come with me," Kira instructed softly, as she turned towards what looked like another set of doors further down the corridor. "It'll take you both somewhere safe where your sister can receive proper treatment." Tommy exchanged a worried look with his little sister, who was still sitting on the floor nearby, clutching her belly protectively but nodding reluctantly in agreement. He helped Lily up and offered her hand as she stood unsteadily beside him. The corridor they followed to reach the medical clinic seemed longer than it had been when coming from the other direction earlier that day. Walls were lined with dimly lit panels displaying complex schematics of ship's systems, but Tommy barely noticed them. Nohi's focus was entirely on Lily and Kira moving ahead, leaving behind whatever safety their makeshift shelter offered. They finally arrived at what appeared to be a door marked Medical Bay. Entrance flickered into view as they approached, revealing another corridor beyond it with signs pointing towards various rooms such as emergency room, recovery ward, and diagnostic suite. The sterile smell of antiseptics filled the air immediately upon entering. Kira led them directly to a door labeled General Clinic. She pressed her hand against its side, causing it to hum softly before sliding open with a whoosh. Inside was an expansive room complete with rows of metallic examination tables and monitors displaying vital signs in digital readouts. Automated medical units lined the wall, syringes loaded for injection, scalpels resting on sterilized trays waiting for use. Lily's face paled even more as she saw all these instruments, but Tommy squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We're here now," he whispered to his sister. "It'll be okay." Kira gently guided them over to one of the examination tables, where Lily could lie down comfortably without feeling exposed or vulnerable due to harsh lighting overhead. "Let me see what I can do for your little friend here," Kira said kindly, her voice soft but filled with resolve as she began preparing various medical devices and tools around the table. "But first we need some scans." Tommy watched nervously from behind Lily's side while Kira started up diagnostic equipment that seemed alien compared to anything he had ever seen in station clinics back home. The room buzzed softly, screens lighting up with streams of data scrolling across their surfaces. "Stay here," Tommy instructed his sister firmly but gently when she tried getting off the table due to discomfort from all these strange machines surrounding her now. "He'll be right next to you." Kira then began running diagnostic tests on Lily, swiping a small scanner over different parts of her body and watching as results flickered across digital displays overhead. The process was quick yet thorough. Within minutes, Kira had compiled enough information for an initial assessment. "Your sister appears to have contracted some form of infection from the food sources she ingested," Kira explained calmly, turning towards Tommy, who stood by Lily's side anxiously, awaiting news about her condition. "It's not severe, but needs prompt treatment before it becomes worse." Tommy nodded in understanding, the worry still gnawed at him internally, over costs involved with proper care here, and how they would pay them back later on once shit fixed enough to leave system again. "Do you have money for this?" Tommy asked hesitantly, glancing from Kira's elegant robes down towards diagnostic screens that displayed detailed analysis of Lily's blood samples. "We don't really," Kira interrupted him with a soft laugh tinged by something almost parental in nature. She reached into her satchel and produced a small pouch filled with what appeared to be credits or other forms of currency from many different star systems, a testament perhaps not just about wealth, but also extensive travels across galaxy. "I have plenty," Kira assured them both, handing over the pouch containing enough funds already set aside for emergencies much like this one. "And besides, I want to help." Tommy stared at her in shock as she placed everything inside a transaction terminal near entrance of clinic that processed payment seamlessly without delay or hesitation. Signatures weren't necessary here, between such advanced systems handling all financial matters efficiently behind scenes. "But why are you doing this?" Tommy asked, his voice low and strained now with emotions he hadn't realized were lurking just beneath surface since meeting Kira. "You could have left us alone back there in your quarters, or even better, let someone else take care of her, if it really worried you so much." Kira turned towards him then, her silver blue gaze piercing through layers of distrust and caution built up over years surviving harsh realities within station slums where kindness often came with strings attached. Yet somehow this felt different, sincere, rather calculated scheme designed merely gain advantage. "Because I could have," Kira admitted quietly but firmly, her voice carry weight despite its soft tone like that used speaking wisdom to young minds ready learn lessons life had taught through hard way too many times already. But you didn't take what was easy or convenient for yourselves when presented with opportunity to do so. Instead, both of you chose path most difficult yet honorable by working fairly without expecting more than fair exchange in return. Tommy's heart ached as realization dawned within him, saw beyond mere transactional barter between strangers into something far deeper rooted in mutual respect gained through genuine acts kindness rather cold logic dictating exchanges alone. Why should I not help those who deserve it? Kira continued, her words cutting straight to core of why Tommy felt conflicted about accepting such offer. After 300 years traveling galaxy, there aren't many adults left still capable showing such honor and integrity amidst harsh realities. Tears welled up in Tommy's eyes, then his weight he had been carrying alone for so long finally started lifting ever so slightly now, under support offered unconditionally by an unexpected ally found within most unlikely places imaginable. Thanks, was all he managed to choke out before breaking down completely into sobs, collapsing against Lily, who held him close reassuringly herself. Kira moved swiftly, then soft hands gently guiding both siblings off her towards another examination table, where she wrapped them in warm embrace that seemed designed specifically comfort and ease rather any ulterior or motive or hidden agenda. She allowed Tommy to cry freely without judgment, as he hadn't cried openly like this since losing parents years ago back home. Eventually, after allowing time for emotions to subside slightly, Kira gently pulled away, but kept hand resting on Thomas' shoulder reassuringly before speaking again softly yet firmly, building him back up, just as she had promised when offering help initially. "You're strong," Kira praised quietly, "but even strongest among us need support sometimes, and it's okay to seek that out." With those words, the air around them seemed lighter, somehow a sense of renewed hope shining through cracks once filled with doubts and fears weighing heavily on Tommy's heart before now starting fade away under influence. Genuine kindness offered freely without expecting anything in return save mutual trust earned through actions rather than mere empty promises. Kira held him while he broke down, then builds him back up. And Kira holds him while he breaks down, then builds him back up. The cold metallic clanging of tools echoed through the dimly lit garage as Tommy and Lily worked alongside Kira on her ship's core systems. The air was thick with a mixture of lingering grease and mildew from years of neglect within the station's industrial underbelly, a stark contrast to the elegance that had once been part of the Valorian elder. "Where did you learn this, human boy?" Kira asked softly as she inspected one of Tommy's makeshift repairs. Her silver blue eyes were filled with a rare sense of wonder and respect, her voice carrying an unspoken gratitude. Tommy shrugged his shoulders, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand before answering, "I've always liked making things work again. It's easier to fix stuff than let it break down." Outside their secluded area within the station slums, the distant hums and clatters of everyday life continued unabated, the constant reminder that this place was far removed from Kira's usual surroundings. "Your skills are commendable," she noted, her tone shifting slightly, as if contemplating something deeply. "But let us not forget about your sister." Lily stood beside Tommy's workbench, watching intently while occasionally offering suggestions or tools needed for the task at hand. Her innocent presence was a stark contrast to their surroundings, and it seemed that even Kira couldn't help but notice her. As if sensing an approaching threat, Lily suddenly tensed up, glancing towards the door with wide eyes. "Tommy," she whispered urgently. "I think someone's coming." Sure enough, heavy footsteps were heard echoing down the narrow corridor leading into their workspace. The sound of security personnel's boots against metal floors grew louder by the second. "What now?" Tommy asked Kira, his voice low but tinged with desperation and frustration. Kira stood up straight, her posture commanding respect even here in these cramped quarters. "Stay calm," she instructed calmly, as she moved towards the entrance to face whatever was coming next. The door slid open abruptly, revealing a burly security officer flanked by two more crew members, each armed with phasers and wearing expressions of suspicion mixed with disdain for their surroundings and clientele. "Station security," barked the late guard. "We've been notified that an alien is hiding in these slums." Tommy's heart sank as he realized what was about to happen. These men would never believe him over a supposed intruder like Kira, especially not considering how much trouble they were already causing just by being there. "Wait!" Tommy shouted, rising from his workbench and stepping forward. "This woman has done nothing wrong. She's here because her ship needs help." The guard sneered down at the boy, clearly unimpressed with such an argument coming from someone of Tom's age. "You're part of this operation?" he demanded, eyes narrowing suspiciously towards Kira, then back to Lily, who was trembling slightly behind Tommy. "There must be some sort of scam going on here, exploiting these children for personal gain." Kira's gaze hardened at the accusation, her voice taking on a sharp edge as she responded with controlled fury. "Do not speak about me and my intentions so lightly," Kira hissed back through clenched teeth. "These children helped me out of necessity, and in exchange, I am helping them right no be fair means alone." One of the guards stepped forward, pointing towards Tommy and Lily, accusingly. "We should take them all into custody until we can sort this mess out properly," he said firmly, but hesitantly, clearly not wanting to antagonize someone who might have powerful allies elsewhere in space. "No," Kira's voice boomed with such force that the men visibly flinched. "If you dare touch one hair on their heads without my permission." Kira paused for a moment before continuing more carefully yet no less firmly. "These children are innocent, and I am ensuring they remain safe under current circumstances." Tommy felt a surge of pride mingling with fear at Kira's defiance. Sesh was defending him as fiercely as he would protect Lily. Yet, it wasn't enough. The security team remained unmoved by her words or actions. "Sir," one guard spoke up, gesturing towards his comlink device clipped to his belt, "we should inform our superiors and get explicit orders on how to proceed." As if anticipating such an outcome, Kira swiftly took out a small communicator from inside the folds of her robes. She pressed several buttons rapidly before placing it against her ear. "Diplomatic liaison," she began crisply into its speaker, a title that carried weight amongst galactic politics and law enforcement alike. "This is Elder Valorian Kuravosh. I require immediate assistance in resolving a potential misunderstanding with local security." Tommy's eyes widened as he watched the exchange. There was more to this situation than anyone could possibly guess. Kira wasn't just some stranger down on her luck, but someone who carried influence far beyond these dimly lit corridors and grimy walls. A few tense moments later, another set of footsteps approached rapidly. The sound of approaching vehicles outside echoed through nearby speakers before a sleek cruiser landed directly adjacent to their work area. Its doors slid open almost immediately, revealing several uniformed officers along with what appeared to be an important diplomatic official carrying insignia indicating his high rank within Kira's own society. "Elder," the diplomat addressed her respectfully, bowing slightly as he approached, accompanied by armed guards moving carefully yet confidently through the narrow space between stations and cargo bays. We received your message moments ago. Kira nodded towards him, then turned sharply to address security directly once more, her voice taking on a commanding tone, now backed fully by authority rather than just personal conviction. I am an elder of my people, she stated clearly for all present to hear, emphasizing her title as if laying claim over these proceedings. The misunderstanding has been clarified and resolved satisfactorily under diplomatic oversight. Tommy could see the guards exchanging uncertain glances, but ultimately deferring fully to Kira's presence, now augmented by both local law enforcement respect for galactic rank hierarchy. Understood, one finally replied after some quiet deliberation amongst themselves, clearly deciding not to risk further conflict or overstepping boundaries set firmly in place between different realms of power and influence across the stars. We will stand down under these conditions. Kira nodded curtly, then turned back towards Tommy and Lily, who were watching this drama unfold with a mix of awe and relief. Now, she instructed gently yet insistently, as her tone softened again upon noticing their expressions, stand down. Tommy allowed himself to relax slightly, seeing security teams retreating, but remained vigilant. His newfound calm felt fragile given recent events. Yet alongside Kira's strength stood something else now, too, an understanding between them forged through acts of mutual respect and aid. You protected us, Tommy whispered softly, as she turned back towards him after dismissing the guards, his voice barely audible against remaining background noise filtering in from elsewhere within station. Yes, Kira agreed quietly, and I will continue to do so. She held out a hand, then reaching across gaps separating them, an offer of trust and support unlike anything had known before, now offered freely, without expectation, beyond simple recognition of shared humanity, despite vast differences between their origins and experiences thus far navigated together through adversity. Thank you, Tommy said again, allowing himself this rare moment to accept solace from unexpected ally found amidst harsh realities where kindness often came with heavy price attached otherwise. Kira pulled him into a gentle embrace, then, as Lily approached closely beside them, her protective instincts remaining ever present even here now under new eyes, witnessing true strength and dignity in action beyond mere survival skills taught through necessity alone. With this exchange of trust and care, the air around them felt lighter, somehow a sense of hope beginning to shine through cracks once filled with doubts and fears weighing heavily on Tom's heart, before now starting fade away bit by bit under influence. Genuine kindness offered freely, without expecting anything more than mutual recognition earned solely through actions, rather than mere empty promises. Kira held him while he broke down, then builds him back up. Kira gently pulled back from her embrace of Tommy and Lily, looking into their eyes, filled with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. The bustling station around them was gradually calming down as security personnel withdrew after ensuring the situation had been properly resolved. Follow me, Kira said softly but firmly, extending an inviting hand towards a small shuttle that awaited on a nearby platform. Time we talk more about what comes next. Tommy hesitated for just a moment before taking Lily's hand in his and walking with her to the waiting vessel. The interior was clean despite recent dust accumulation. Soft seats lined the walls, providing comfort after the rough edges of their surroundings outside. Where are we going? Tommy asked, glancing between Kira and the ship's controls as she initiated a liftoff sequence. To somewhere safer, Kira replied with an empathetic smile. Somewhere where you two can live without fear. Lily clung to her brother tightly, but looked up at their companion with a mix of wonder and hope glowing in her eyes. The shuttle smoothly ascended through the bay's entrance, revealing the vast expanse of stars beyond. Do we have to leave everyone behind?" Tommy asked, his voice tinged with reluctance despite knowing that staying meant risking harm for both him and Lily. Again, Kira turned to face them fully once they were in space. "You've already proven yourself capable far beyond your years," she said softly but earnestly. "I can offer you a new life where learning doesn't come at such great cost." Tommy thought about this deeply, his young mind weighing the pros and cons with an intensity that belied his age. He looked down at Lily, who seemed to sense something significant was being decided. "Tell us what you're thinking," Kira urged gently when Tommy didn't immediately respond. I don't want anyone else getting hurt because of me or her," he said, gesturing towards his sister. "If this means we can be safe and have a chance at living better lives without always running from danger, I think it's the right choice." Lily nodded eagerly in agreement, though she knew little about what was being discussed. Her trust in Tommy was unwavering, her bright eyes reflecting hope. Kira smiled warmly, reaching out to pat Lily on the head, and then extending a hand again towards Tommy. "It'll fix your ship," he reiterated quietly, but with renewed determination. He took Kira's offered hand, despite his initial hesitation, sealing an unspoken promise between them forged in mutual trust and respect. "Then let me do something for you both as well." Kira pulled out some data pads from the small shuttle storage compartments, sophisticated devices that looked alien, but held educational materials suitable even for young minds like Tommy's. "I can sponsor your education, ensure legal status so no one tries to take advantage again." Tommy stared at her in disbelief, his fingers tightening around Lily's hand as if to reassure himself of the reality unfolding before him. We can't repay that," he stammered after a moment of silence, filled only by distant hums from their journey through space. "You've already given us more than we could ever hope for." Kira shook her head, looking at Tommy with understanding eyes. "No one asked you to repay anything." She paused before continuing softly but clearly, emphasizing each word as if imparting a crucial lesson beyond mere material benefits. "You treated an old woman with fairness when she expected nothing less but theft and deceit," Kira explained gently yet powerfully. "You gave me hope that kindness still exists in the universe." Tommy felt his cheeks heat up under her praise, an acknowledgement of their small acts of bravery amidst adversity. Lily tugged at Tommy's sleeve, looking up at him with wide eyes. "Can we go?" she whispered hopefully, but clearly to both Kira and Tommy alike. "I like her." He glanced between the kind alien woman who had offered them so much and the harsh reality they'd known all their lives in slums and danger. A new sense of warmth spread within him, not just from physical comfort provided by Kira's kindness, but a deeper emotional connection forged through shared trials. Tommy looked down at his sister, now healthy and full of hope after days lacking proper nourishment, and then back to Kira, who offered them more than food or shelter. She promised security and opportunities neither had imagined possible until now. At the station outside, familiar sights were beginning to blur under new perspectives opening up before him. Taking a deep breath, Tommy squeezed Lily's hand firmly in reassurance before turning fully towards their unexpected benefactor and ally. "Okay," he said quietly yet resolutely, "but I'm still fixing things on your ship." Kira smiled warmly at his declaration of intent, nodding gracefully with an acceptance that spoke volumes about her character, extending beyond wealth or status, but grounded deeply in mutual respect earned through actions rather than rhetoric alone. "I'm counting on it," she agreed genuinely, then turned back towards navigating their course to ensure they reached wherever safer destination promised lay ahead. "Now, let's go and make your future a better place." With these final words, Tommy allowed himself to relax further into the journey that was only just beginning for him and his sister, away from familiar dangers, but embracing new possibilities with courage born out of necessity, yet colored now by genuine hope rather than mere survival. The boy who had fixed a ship for food found in return not merely sustenance or immediate aid, but a grandmother figure whose kindness transcended simple material offerings to encompass understanding, protection, and opportunity. His life was about to change fundamentally thanks to an act of generosity offered freely, without expectation, beyond recognizing inherent value within each individual. And the boy who fixed a ship for food found a grandmother who fixed his life for love.